Hello, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel, and this is the weekly angel card reading for the week beginning December 26th through to the 30th, 2016. So the last video reading I'll do for the year. So for those of you who haven't seen one of my readings before, I do this every week and I draw an angel card and ask the angels what they want us to know for that particular day. It will help us navigate some of the challenges we might face or just things that we need to be aware of with what comes up for us and to help us make better choices. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, I hope you've had a lovely time celebrating with your families, or your family of origin or your family of choice, and hopefully had some time to reflect on how things are going for you and where you want to go. So we'll start with Monday the 26th, that's Boxing Day. So I'm not sure, those of you who do celebrate Christmas, how many of you are actually going to be watching this. You might be too busy either cleaning up or recovering from the stress of it all, but hopefully in the right frame of mind to move forward. Singing and dancing. So this is very much a celebratory card. It's all about joy and about being present, which is very much what I consider a theme for Christmas. We talk about the presents as in gifts, but I like to think of the idea of being present for other people and for ourselves. There's nowhere else you need to be at that point, and you can just stay in the moment. And one way we can do that is by celebrating the moment, by singing and dancing, for example. So this is something I really love doing, and I don't do it very often, but it's something I really want to make a point of doing. For a while I had a ritual of coming home from work every day and busting out some moves to Taylor Swift just by myself in my own lounge. So you don't have to do that, but what you can do is make some time for play today and really be present in that and enjoy the moment. So it's funny, when we do that sort of movement, that sort of unfettered, body-driven or soul-driven really, we're not engaging the mind and we're just being present and we're just letting things come through. You can actually be more connected in that moment to your intuition. So it can help you with all sorts of things, not only letting go of stress, but that sort of opens the flow for the answers to questions you might have to come through then as well. So it's really good for you, for not just for your body, your physical health, but also for your emotional health as well. So looking at Tuesday the 27th. Sometimes I find it a bit frustrating. It takes ages for the right card to come through, but it's not a process I can rush. New ideas. One I haven't had for a while. It's about, obviously new ideas that you might be having. So inspiration that's striking you right now, things that you've been thinking about that you're starting to realise might be worth acting on. And this is kind of the go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that? That didn't really make sense. Okay. You know what I mean. I guess I'm just putting emphasis on it indirectly. So it's really confirmation. We tend to, when we have ideas, we can disregard them as too hard or too ridiculous, and often we forget that actually our imagination is a form of intuition. So because again, they're the ideas that are not governed by the mind. They're the things that come to us, like we talk about light bulb moments. So it's really inspiration that strikes you is really about paying attention to that and going ahead with the things you've been thinking about but you've been backing away from because you're hesitant for whatever reason. And if you don't have any new ideas at the moment, this can also be a green light. Not a green light, more like a amber light, I guess you might say, just to continue as you're going with what you've been working on. So if you're not working on anything at the moment and you want to be, pay attention to your intuition. But if you're already in the throes of moving ahead with perhaps a new career path or I don't know, whatever it is you're working on, keep going with that and don't be waylaid by procrastination or any sort of way that fear likes to kind of keep us stagnant, which is the exact opposite to what our soul wants us to do. So Wednesday the 28th. Oh, that didn't go well. Yeah. Sometimes when the shuffling's not going so, I'm not a very good shuffler anyway, let's be honest, but sometimes when the shuffling continues to go badly, I'm clumsy, I drop things, that's how I know that I'm on the wrong track and using the wrong deck. So I'm switching now to a new one called Messages from Your Angels. You'd think I know the name by now, but I don't really think of them in terms of their correct Doreen Virtue ascribed names. So this is for Wednesday the 28th. Oops, this wasn't the right decapital. Oh! I love it when that happens. Just when you're working on anything, you just start to doubt, and then something happens, and you get this really big reminder that actually it's right. So Athena, it's safe for you to be powerful. I talk about this a lot. The idea of power is something positive. When we tend to have these ideas of power corrupts, or power makes you or isolates you and turns you into an enemy. The sort of power that we talk about in the spiritual world is your own empowerment, your power to be yourself, to in a world that wants to turn you into something else. The power to determine your own path in a society which has a very prescribed path for you. So it's a good thing, your own power. So and there's real kind of power in following those ideas about what you want to do and who you think you are, and not following the path. So it's talking about how it's safe for you to be powerful, and how much that can help you as well by following your power. Not following your power, but tuning into your power, and understanding that if you are doubting whether you can follow through on what you wanted to do, that you absolutely can. You do have the power to do that. So, yeah, when the power can mean different things, and particularly when I'm talking about the chakras, it has a very kind of more broad meaning. But what they're talking about here is the sort of power, your own inner light is really what they're showing me, like your own light, and they're showing me and expanding beyond the constraints of your physical body. So, and with no one around you. So it's really individualism that's being highlighted here. So they really want you to go ahead with what is right for you to do. So for some of you, that's going to mean something very specific that you're dealing with at the moment. Perhaps it's in a clash with someone else. Perhaps it's in regards to a situation where you've got a hurdle, perhaps in the workplace, and you'll know what it means for you. It could be more broad, even in terms of what I'm talking about, a wider path that you need to follow. But whatever it is, and particularly for women who, we're so this can relate to men as well, but for women, we're really taught from an early age that we need to do the right thing, and to be polite, and to be well mannered, and not to upset people. Whereas, and I'm not saying you should upset people necessarily, but what I am saying is you must do what is right for you, and not be concerned about how that looks to other people, whether that looks disruptive or revolutionary, or whether it looks impolite, or whatever you think you're worried it might be. To really disregard that, and to go with what is right for you, because those are the things that will make you shine, and will make your soul, really elevate your soul. Because people who live these lives that are prescribed, and it's not, if that's right for you, that's absolutely okay. But if you're doing that because it's expected of you, and you don't want to upset anyone, you're really living in this very small box, and you will die with a lot of regrets, and you'll come back in the next life with even bigger challenges to work through, because you've not learnt the lessons you needed to learn. It's not supposed to be easy. None of this stuff is supposed to be easy, but the braver you are, the easier it gets, if that makes sense. Thursday, the 29th. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes in following what's right for you, you can inadvertently upset people, and that is really their problem, not yours. Not that you want to be unkind, but doing what is right for you in a peaceful, loving way is not unkind. 30th. Oh, Damara, guiding children. Very specific one here. For those of you who are considering working with kids, do it. They're really like, how do I describe it? They're really like, it's like they're really illuminating this one. I don't really know how to describe what they're doing, but they're like, some of you really need to do this as a career, and if that's you. For most, I know for most of you that's not going to apply, but for some of you, you really need to do that, and you've been putting it off for a long time. No longer, my friend. That is what you are called to do. So if you are facing fears about not having enough money, not having enough time to train, or anything like that, ask the angels to help, and they will help you find a way. Now, for the rest of us, it's about being a guardian to children. So you don't have to be a parent for this to relate to you. We're all charged with the responsibility of looking after children. So it might be children that you encounter randomly today, or in general, it might be a child of a friend who is in need of particular comfort or advice or guidance in some way. You can provide that. So it might not come to you right now. Sometimes they give us advance warning about these things because they want us to be thinking about them. So just pay attention for ways that this is going to come up for you. But it does remind us that we're all here to lead the next generation, because those children have got their own life lessons to learn, and it helps them if they can see people who are living, I was going to say big lives, but that can imply something bold and sort of famous and really substantial. But what I mean is big lives in terms of lives that they have themselves designed. That's a really powerful way that you can role model. So Friday the 30th. Ooh. Can't believe we're at the end of the year. I know that's such a cliche and it's really boring hearing people say that, but honestly it's quite astounding to me that I've been doing these almost every week this year. And I want to say thank you to all of you who've given me feedback as well about how these readings have helped you, or have just sought me out for extra advice. I'm happy to do that. Obviously I charge for personal readings, but follow-ups from the videos that I post, I'm happy to do that within, as long as I'm able to do that. Sometimes people's personal circumstances can make it quite difficult. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't helpful to people. So hearing from you reassures me that it is. And it just keeps that love energy flowing. So the more I receive, the more I've got to give back. So, whew. So before how I was saying about being really clumsy with these. Yeah, sometimes these ones are quite difficult. You are safe. So I talked briefly about safety before in terms of following what's in your heart and not being swayed by the crowd. And in terms of your power, following your power. So you are safe. This is root or ground base chakra sort of stuff for those of you who do energy healing or Reiki. You are safe in terms of feeling safe to go through the world, doing what you need to do. So you're not worried about your personal security or about the security of your children. You're not worried that anything bad is going to happen. Sometimes people talk about how they struggle to enjoy their lives because they're worried something's going to go wrong or something's going to be taken away from them. And I know some new mums have told me they've struggled with this a lot. So it's certainly not a unique experience. And the problem is, when we're worried about our safety, we don't expand. We don't make the choices that we need to make. We cower back and we try to hide, and we're worried about surface level things instead of going out and living in the way that that gives our soul room to do what it needs to do. So this reminds us that we're safe, and it's got Archangel Michael here, who's associated with security. I've said this many times, but he is the patron saint in the United States of emergency service workers and security guards. And I think of him as my spiritual bodyguard, or spiritual bouncer as well, you might like to. I've also thought of him in those sort of terms. In regards to keeping negative energies at bay. But in terms of a spiritual bodyguard, I think of him as protecting me and keeping me safe. I've told you guys many times that I do a shielding exercise in the mornings for my meditation to kind of shield me against negative energies and fear-based energies that I might encounter. And I also ask Michael just to protect me in general sense, and to keep me physically safe, but also to try and protect me from anything that might be harmful. Now that doesn't mean that I might not still encounter things that are adverse, shall we say, but it does mean that if I know that I'm safe, I feel better equipped to make decisions in those circumstances, and to kind of keep general anxiety at bay. I don't know much about anxiety as a condition, but I do know that it does involve, for those people who suffer from it, and it just sounds like a really just horrific thing to go through, but you are constantly scared for your own safety, and I just can't imagine what it'd be like to live with that. So this message about safety is going to mean different things to different people, as is the case with so many of these cards. So hopefully you can glean something from what I've said that relates to you. But what the angels really want you to know here is that you are safe and they are looking after you. And if you ever doubt it, ask Archangel Michael or just any angels to protect you. I do this in particular before I'm getting on an aeroplane, a bus, sometimes even in the car. I ask for extra protection, and I ask for white light to be surrounded, for the vehicle to be surrounded by white light. So there's all sorts of things. Now that doesn't mean obviously that I'm going to be reckless. I'm not going to go running out in front of cars and think that I'm safe. I'm still going to protect myself, but it's an extra layer of security there, and it means I can go about my business and not be constantly fearful. Looking at the week, so we do have that safety kind of thing coming through, but we've also got stuff about being present and celebrating. I love that it came through from the start of the week, for the start of the week, not from the start of the week, and we've got ideas about following through with what we've set out to do, or paying attention to new inspiration. And of course it's the end of the year, and we're getting close to that point where we start setting goals, if you haven't already, for the new year. So it's a good time to be thinking about what you want to be working on. And this particular one about children, which I love. Now, one thing I forgot to say about that card is, if you don't have any children and you don't come into contact with children, or even if you do, this other meaning might also relate to you, inner child. For those of you who don't know much about inner child, it's really about this idea that, and this is in psychology circles, I think it was quite big in the 70s, I believe, although I'm certainly no expert, but also in spiritual sort of context, we talk about the inner child as being, the part of us that wants to be nourished and nurtured and looked after, and struggles with this whole adulting thing. And the problem is, we're so busy with our lives that we forget to indulge our inner child and do things like play. And play is a really important way to be mindful, to be aware, and to be present, and to not be sort of stuck in this mental energy space. So you can see how play is really, really valuable. And we see this when we have or are around small children. They're not worried about what's going to happen next. They're not going to worry about where their next meal is going to come from. They completely trust that they are looked after. And in the same way, you are a child of the universe, and you are also being looked after, so you don't need to worry either. Although your ego will tell you otherwise. And the other thing about being a child who trusts that everything is going to be okay, you also are completely present because you have faith that you're being looked after, and you also everything has a sense of wonder to it, because it's new, that you're discovering and learning so much. And having a sense of wonder can really help you to be more present. So for example, I remember about 6 months ago or so, I did a whale watching tour in Sydney, where I live, and just seeing these majestic creatures did give me a sense of wonder. And that's the sort of thing that makes your days last longer. They don't go by in a flash because they're routine. They last because you're seeing new things, you're learning new things, and you're having new experiences. So that can be a really great way as well to bring out your inner child, to discover something new, or a new place, or learn something new about the world. So that's a lot to take in, I know. So I'll post these on my social media as I do every week. I'll give you more information, and you might find that when the day comes up, something new will have arisen in your life that gives these a whole new context. So don't get too upset if they don't really resonate yet. Just start thinking about things, because sometimes it's after you've seen the card, like as in a couple of days later, that it will really resonate, and that's because you need the information when you need it and not before. But it's important that sometimes to have kind of to get your mind thinking about things, because there's a certain order to things. It's called divine order. So that's it for the week. Have a fantastic week. I'll read for you again next week, next year. And as always, you can contact me if you need any more information. I'm on Instagram at OneGroundedAngel. My Facebook page is OneGroundedAngel. And my blog is www.onegroundedangel.com, and you can find my email address on there. Have a fantastic New Year celebration, and I hope that this year has been wonderful for you. I know it has been challenging for a lot of us, but hopefully you can always find lots of good things to celebrate as well. And as always, there are lots of lessons for us, and that's a sign of growth. Take care, and I will read for you again next week.